today we got Rosie Arnold.
We do indeed.
Which is going to be very exciting.
She's been emailing me all week saying, what are we talking about? It's like, it's billboards.
Rosie's so chatty, she's brilliant, she's so open and giving about everything. I mean, obviously I worked with her for a bit, so I knew her, but I didn't know quite the volume of work she's done. She's been at BBH for she was there for 32 years.
Yeah, it's a long time, isn't it?
That's nearly as old as you, isn't it? But she, just the links effect, that whole kind of, it's like a decade nearly of work there. That body of work's amazing. There's so much Levi's, there was Robinson's, and it's going to be great, I think.
There's some great stuff to go through, and it's hugely inspirational stuff. I actually have to call out some of our social followers for suggesting things for us to be talking about, which is good, and keep it coming, If there's anything you see out there that you want us to discuss, do comment on our posts. You can find us on Twitter at GetBTB, on Instagram at GetBehindTheBillboard, or you can go to our website and listen and subscribe and stuff at getbehindthebillboard.com.
No live streaming yet, though. No visuals.
No, we will do. Should we do that? Should we film one of these things?
You'll have to put your clothes on.
Oh, really?
Well, you got your boxer shorts. It's fine. Rosie Arnold, welcome to Behind the Billboard.
Hi.
Where do we start? I've got a little list here. You were one of the founding employees of BBH, one of the greatest agencies of all time. D&AD's first ever female president. You're a multi award-winning creative with many billboards and other pieces to your name. And probably lesser known, you are a part-time fencer. Is that correct?
It is, yes. Foil.
And you're generally I think you're generally a
I
lover
thought you
of
meant garden fences.
Oh, no. Stolen goods, actually. Do you want to buy a radio?
So general lover of life, ad life and life. So welcome to the show, and thanks for coming in.
Pleasure.
We know you're very busy with your two roles,
Mm-hmm.
Advertising life consultant and founding partner of new agency Love or Fear. How are you enjoying being those people?
I'm loving it. I have to say, I am really, really missing a fabulous PA. My diary is a nightmare.
There's a job.
Anyone trying to get an appointment with me, I move it about 20 times. And then I got in a terrible state about the difference between February and March recently. Because anyway, it's a mess.
Is that when we're trying to book this session in?
Yep. No, well, that and a number of other things.
This is a recruitment
apologies
ad.
to everybody that I have now moved 25 times and then removed it, so I'm sorry about all that.
But are you doing just those two roles, or do you find time to do other things?
No, I'm doing lots of things. So I've been doing some consultancy, I've been doing some masterclass work for D&AD.
Cool.
I've been doing sculpture courses, and I'm trying to learn Italian.
Ah, see. Is that right?
Is that what?
See, ciao.
Is that the
Ciao.
Yeah, ciao. Ciao and see. That's where we got to.
I'm sure you speak it.
Hopefully I'm going to be a bit better in a few weeks' time. But hey.
Well, you sound like you're busy. Sounds like
Yeah, it's great.
In terms of outdoor work you've seen recently, so you obviously, as you say, you've been very busy, out and about. See billboards on your routes and your dog walking routes.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else you've seen recently that really stands out?
It's really interesting, isn't it? Because I haven't seen stuff that I've gone, oh my God, I love that. But last year, I think it was last year, there was the most fantastic billboard campaign for Budweiser, which was called Taglines. I don't know if you saw it.
right.
It was complete genius. So it's a global campaign. You're not allowed to advertise beer, people are looking happy and drinking it in dark markets. But they had to advertise beer. And what they did was there was a real connection between Budweiser and music industry. So I don't know the team involved, but what they'd done is they'd found with Google search terms that you could lead people to see photographs of Jimi Hendrix, the Rolling Stones, Bob Dylan, the best rock stars ever, holding a Budweiser. And so the posters, which again were really beautifully designed, they were just very simple, red, white, the Budweiser branding, just had 3 or 4 search criteria. So like 1966, Monterey, backstage. And you Google that and you saw these incredible people drinking Budweiser.
Nice.
So it was just brilliant on every level.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was a really inventive use of the media because they looked lovely. And even if you didn't bother to look up the search frame. You just knew that Budweiser was there in 1966 in Monterey, at the jazz festival or whatever.
Yeah.
So you got the sense of the cool and the connection
The
to
story
music.
of the brand is there. And you've got,
And of course what they've done made a £1 zillion campaign for nothing.
Yeah.
Because you weren't paying any of the rights to the celebrities. So it was just the most inventive piece of thinking.
Nicely
Yeah,
joined
that's a
up.
good one.
Not taking you not just appreciating the poster, but then taking you online and a richer
really,
experience.
Yeah, really, really fresh way.
Great. That's great.
And in your multi roles, have you been working on any outdoor recently?
I haven't, and I find that a real shame because I love posters as a media, and I've been saying to clients, if they'll listen to me, for ages, that actually posters are something that you can't turn off. They're really beautiful. They're a beautiful, simple media, and actually, if you look at how we engage with people now, we're kind of interrupting them. And, we're interrupting them in a space where they want to get on with whatever they're doing. So, we pop up into the box when you're looking online, and actually the poster format is a really good rule to do that, actually, because you've got to be fast and simple. But actually out in the streets, you're actually entertaining people with the posters, not interrupting them. And, you've got an opportunity to do something lasting, actually, and lovable. People actually are passionate about posters. It's one of the things that people actually will go and buy in shops. So film posters, but you can see classic advertising posters that people want to buy.
Yeah, people still go out and buy the film posters, the release date posters.
Yeah,
they are a piece of art, aren't they?
But I mean, Obama's poster. How many people have replicated that, and it's just back in when I was first in advertising. There were the most fantastic Benson & Hedges cigarette surreal posters that people all loved and wanted to collect, or the Heineken posters. They were a real art form, and they're visually stunning if you get it right. So
yeah, I agree.
It's a shame.
I still think that the craft is there on the medium, especially some of the mural paintings coming back. London, I mean Brooklyn, if you stand still long enough you're going to get painted. There are murals everywhere. I was there just last week, and Colossal Media, they're a media owner there, they get the rights to the walls. They're doing these amazingly handcrafted bits of outdoor artwork, all brand centric, but the craft is really coming back to the kind of the traditional medium, as well as the digital billboards that are popping up everywhere and transforming the locations.
Near Old Street there was an Oatly campaign. I don't know if you've seen this Oatly campaigin where they're very, very ironic headlines, but someone had done an entire side of a building and saying stuff like, "Oh, you must have stopped and looked at this poster." I mean, I'm not doing it justice, but they're very well written.
Yeah, I've seen.
But I like the fact that someone has gone beyond just buying a bit of media. They've actually taken time to go and put it on a wall. And
I mean, there are whole departments at the outdoor specialists now. The media agency will employ the outdoor specialists to help plan the space, and there are departments at the outdoor specialists who focus on these specials. They're kind of the creative specials, special solutions projects, where it may be a projection overlay on a mural or something that's just out of the ordinary for the outdoor space. And there's a real bit of craft coming out that's not just sticking posters out on the wall. It's it's not just covering frequency, as they call it, but it is a real kind of, I want this to stand out for a reason, and can it live beyond the billboard that it's sitting on?
Well, was that the Survivors campaign?
Yeah.
Do you remember?
Yeah.
And they had people who were trying to endure standing out in the rain and snow and whatever.
Yeah, the survival billboard, wasn't it?
Yeah. They've been blown off today.
We've got them in March. Yeah, we've got them. They're coming in March.
Cool.
We might do a bit of an Xbox special actually, because there's one or two really wonderful outdoor on that.
Football Decoded as well.
Yeah, amazing.
It's a really nice one.
Yeah, it's sort of like we've got a whole wish list of stuff to go for. I suppose I want to ask you a little bit about just generally, do you find outdoor your favourite medium? I mean, you've done work on so many different platforms, but do you find it the purest one? Do you find it the most interesting to work in?
I love it. I think as an art director, I love the craft that you can put into a poster, and the fact that it's there and you can see it, and you can experience it in the, I suppose I went to art school and you go, oh my God, this is my dream. I've got an enormous canvas that I'm working on, and the opportunity to work with really, really gifted, talented illustrators, photographers, typographers. But I do like film too. But my heart, I think, I do love the purity of a poster.
Yeah, we were talking was with John Forsyth actually, and he was saying to me, John Forsyth's a founding member of Adam and Eve, and he always used to say to me, it's the quickest way to cut through culture, he thought, because you're literally there, and before you know it, you can be Instagrammed and shared.
Yeah,
online.
but also, if you think about what do political parties go to try and change the way people think, or where do people try and change social behaviour? You know, I remember like the AIDS campaign, or that's posters tend to be the place for recruitment or changing attitudes. So look at the Kitchener poster. We want you, or Rosie's Riveter, and
still happens now, doesn't it? Like the party will unveil. The poster. I think a TV ad, or like you say, a piece of film is more of something you absorb and you talk about and stuff, but it doesn't have an immediate visceral.
But also today, you don't get the audiences that you might do, and you can be very targeted with the poster. But you can go, well, I can guarantee that if I put it up in certain locations.
Well, it's one of the areas that that we should definitely devote some time to, because one of the smarter things come with the amount of data that's available to us, and everyone's got a smartphone in their pocket, and the kind of understanding of how audiences move around cities has helped smarter planning for the out-of-home world. So it means that your creative can land with a more relevant audience. So just understanding who you're talking to means that some of that, the media strategy can make its way back through to the creative strategy. And that's what you're seeing on the Oatly stuff, is that you're seeing the media strategy and creative strategy lining up. Yeah, because it's super targeted based on.
It feels tight.
Yeah, it does.
It feels really tight. Someone knows what they're doing, and someone's put it in a place where, I'm going to see it, and it hit me.
You groovy person hanging around.
Yeah, sure, you not.
Just going back to your art college, you're an art director. Mm-hmm. Art college was St Martin's, right?
Central St Martin's.
Central St Martin's, yeah. With alumni.
Yeah, Dan's not just a pretty technical face. He's a creative.
He's not just pixels.
He covers both.
When you were at Central St Martin's, what was what were you specialising in? What was your
graphics? Graphics, but they didn't do advertising.
Right.
It was early, and when I was very disappointed when I got there, because I thought, you write the book or you invent the game, and then you do the typography and the photography and the illustration and put it all together, and then it was like, no, you just do one little area. And also, this is how old I am, this was the time when you actually literally had to cut and paste things, and I'm very mucky, and the glue, I'd always have it's a bit of type stuck somewhere to the picture, with cow gum, anyway. But I was always inspired by ideas, and my boyfriend, who then became my husband, said, you should go into advertising, and he pointed me in the direction of the D&AD annuals. And I remember looking through it and going, oh my God, this is amazing that people get paid to do this. And so I went to D&AD, and I found they did evening courses. So I would, at the time.
So that was post-degree?
No, it was during my degree, because they didn't do any advertising.
Oh, right.
So I got a placement at various CDP in the summer, but I just had a portfolio full of artwork. And I went to this lovely woman called Judy Smith, one of the few female art directors. And I looked up all the work I liked, found out who'd done it, and then pestered them till they saw me. And then went to see her. She looked at my work and said, you're going to have to try a few ads if you want to get some placement. I thought, okay. So I went off and just, came up with them on my own. And then I just dragged some luckless person in with me so that they could sit there and pretend that they were working with me, and built up a portfolio like that. So, but Central St Martin at the time really didn't like advertising, and they said you can't have your degree unless you do the more conventional graphics things. And then, much to my annoyance, after I'd graduated and got a job straight at BBH, they started going, and we do advertising. Look, here's one of our alumni, Rosie Arnold. I said, no, you didn't. You made it really hard for me.
So by the time I was there was definitely they were attracting international students based on the advertising side of the course. So you just split into three things really. It was illustration, graphic design, or advertising. So by the time you're in your second year, you've decided which one you can do, and you support it with photography, videography.
Yeah. But I did enjoy knowing the other disciplines, and actually having a sort of a background in typography and photography and illustration, so you really understand the fundamentals of it.
Yeah, that's very apparent. From your work, you seem to understand, every part of it. Maybe that must have helped when you.
I hope
really
so.
got into it. Which I'm pleased you brought that up, because I was actually going to ask you about your first billboard. And then I was thinking, I wonder where your first job was. So I always wondered if BBH was your first job. But then you mentioned CDP, so you did have a few placements.
So I had a summer placement at CDP,
right?
And I kept going back because I was working on a campaign, didn't get made, but it was being presented to the client, so they kept pulling me back and doing bits and bobs. And they told me that BBH needed some freelance at the Christmas, so I started freelancing at BBH at the Christmas before my degree. Blimey. Then John offered me a job, and I was like, God, because it was 4 years, wasn't it? A year of foundation, and I was thinking, I should take the job, but I'm just a few months off getting the degree. And he said, okay, we'll just carry on freelancing. So I literally freelanced and did the degree, and then started straight after. Wow. Very lucky. Really lucky.
I'm trying to think, where was the office then?
The office was in Wardour Street, and it was above a newsagent called The Hobbit. And it was on the 5th floor.
Right.
And it was directly opposite Brewers Street at the top floor.
Is that where the garage are?
No, they're in Dean Street.
Oh, they're in Dean Street, yeah.
But
I was going to say, has he gone full circle?
No, and then we moved to Frith Street, and then Great Pulteney, and then Kingsley Street. But the first poster I ever did was for Levi's. I don't think I've got a copy of it, actually, with Lynn Kendrick, who is now Kiki Kendrick.
Very good.
And it was for really, really tight Levi's. So they were elasticated, tight Levi's, which because it was 83, 84.
Yeah.
And we did a poster because graffiti was just coming out of New York. I'd been to New York in the summer, and it was people beginning to kind of revere graffiti rather than just think it was a load of tosh.
Yeah.
So we did a graffiti poster. So it looked as if somebody had written "spray on jeans" by Levi's, because it was all about the jeans looked like they'd been sprayed on, and that was a phrase at the time. Yeah. And we did it typographically to make it look as if it had been sprayed on the wall where the poster was going.
Cool. Have you got a copy of that?
I don't think I have. I had a big clear out. I did that declutter, and I've gone a bit...
Maybe Kiki Kendrick. I'll drop her a note.
I might drop her a note.
That's really interesting, because we wanted... There's so many campaigns you want to talk about, and we have a limited amount of time. So I thought it was going to be the campaign we're looking on the table here, which is another Levi's campaign. So it's called the Haters campaign, which we were saying, actually, we're not sure if that really was the name of it, but it was basically people kind of slightly being disparaging about Levi's.
Yeah.
Could you possibly describe it for our listeners, and then tell us a little bit how it came about? That'd be really helpful.
So there's actually 4 in the campaign, but there's only 3 in front of me. It's a very brightly coloured campaign. I used the photographer Mary Ellen Mark, who's the most extraordinary Magnum photographer, photojournalist. Her first job ever had been to be the film photographer on the set of Apocalypse Now.
Wow.
And she was one gutsy woman. She was fantastic. I loved her. And I saw an article that she'd done in Miami photographing rather extraordinary elderly people who were quirky and weird. And just seeing it, I thought, God, they would be very, very disparaging about Levi's.
Yeah.
And I could see the clash between what they thought was acceptable and then what Levi's wearers would want to wear, and there'd be this lovely clash and an opportunity to do some fantastic portrait photography of these characters. So I went to Miami with Marianne Mark, and we found these are all real people.
Yeah, they look spectacular.
Oh, the woman with the Cadillac, and she's got a little poodle who actually had matching painted nails to match her outfit of the day.
Very good.
Her husband had invented the double knit machine, which means that your T-shirts stretch both ways.
Really?
And they were minted.
Right.
And they owned half an island between Miami and Miami Beach, or whatever it was. So it was called Star Island. And we turned up and they had like a garage of different Cadillacs. And then we went into her dressing room, which was huge. And it was double height. And every single outfit she'd put together, there was a little handwritten note with what she'd combined it with and who had been there, so that she'd never wear the same outfit. Seriously.
Wow.
It was amazing. It was.
I didn't think there were people like that.
And she had a lovely maid called Queenie, who was obviously a long-suffering woman. And
what does it say? The headline? Sorry.
Oh God, let me ask my glasses. I hate them because they look scruffy.
Yeah.
And or so scruffy.
How did you find the people? Is it?
Well,
casting.
We actually cast. So we'd go. Mary Ellen had been and done the story before, so she knew the sort of places these people hang out. I was heavily pregnant, by the way, at this stage.
Right. More details.
But anyway, shut me up if I'm going on too
No,
long.
don't be silly.
So we went to this very swish breakfast place, restaurant. And we literally just walked over and saw these people. And then there was a place to be seen, and walked up and asked them whether they'd be in the ad. So,
That's quite ballsy.
It was quite ballsy.
And were you with Charles? Is it Charles Henley?
It was Charles Henley. He didn't come on the shoot.
Okay, so you were there pregnant, going up to this millionaire.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think the pregnancy helped, actually.
Yeah. I'm just feeling
non-threatening.
Yeah.
We did a lot more than actually ever made it, which was a
sure.
shame. We got some. Honestly, we had some of the most unbelievable. There was one woman who sort of looked as if she was a Victorian doll.
Right.
And we went to her home, and she had a room that was completely pink with all those china-faced dolls.
Right.
That's a whole other story. And then we went to an exercise class at dawn. With all these elderly people doing the birdie song, dancing around as the sun came up.
Wow.
And I remember this lovely old woman called Rose Silverman, and she came up to me, and I'm like, 7 months pregnant. I had to have a letter to fly. And she came over and said, "You're very cute, darling, but you really need to lose a little bit of weight on the stomach." And I was like, "Yeah, right, because I'm 7 months pregnant." It's so sweet.
We were talking about recently how, you in this industry, you find yourself in these weird situations on shoots or on, working on a project, and it's those kind of things that
I love it.
kind of tell the kids about.
I love the fact you work in these places, you meet these people, and you do these crazy things that never in a million years you would do. And I'll finish off because one thing that's important art directionally was when I got the prints back, I wanted them to be more extreme and more garish. And this was quite a while ago, so we didn't have like the click a computer button, and so I actually printed out the photographs and I then photocopied them on a colour photocopier, which was a new thing at the time. But what I loved about it was if you look at them, it gives a sort of noise
The texture
to the
of
photo,
it, yeah.
and it also really dialed up some of the colours. And I must have photocopied these things a million times to get the right balance, because you can imagine they're changed quite a bit by it. But
they're brilliant. There's an anti-fashion on it. They're just beautiful. I remember seeing them. I was quite young at the time. I don't know if I was anywhere near the industry, but I remember thinking those are cool.
Well, they're kind of pre-diesel, right? There's a diesel theme to these, but this is pre-diesel, so you can see that where inspiration for some of that stuff has come from. That kind of overexposed and the cut and stick.
How did the client? Was it an easy sell? Because I know Levi's were an amazing client for so long. Were they very much in the mood for buying this kind of work?
Well, I hate to say this to all our people who are working in the industry now. At this stage, I wasn't involved with the selling of it, so we had good account people, and they had the relationship with the client.
Yeah.
But also, they were very much wanting to be a youth brand, and I think they could see the Anakin in these and thought, great, let's be a bit bold. So.
When you did it, I'm fascinated with this because having worked at BBH with you, sometimes you get the brief and you work on a job, and other times you proactively would go and chuck it in. So on this one, and actually the next one I'll talk. Did you proactively go and show this?
I think it was the proactive. I can't remember a lot of those. I don't know about you, but I always find I'm slightly better on the proactive,
Totally.
because you get an idea, and I'm always happier being proactive.
I remember
There's a passion about selling it as well. If you can get that passion to the account person, they're going to go off and just relay that, aren't they?
Yeah.
I remember it was always deemed the kiss of death if you were given the Lynx or Levi's brief, because you had that pressure, whereas someone like Sawnby and Chappie might just drift in at the last minute. There you go, John, do that. Which I wanted to move on to the next campaign, which again I personally think it's even more amazing than the campaign you've just talked about. This is the Incredible Shrinking Man campaign for Levi's again, Shrink to Fit. Could you tell us about that? And also, because you had done this campaign, the sort of what we're calling the haters, did it then give you, the kind of opportunity to go, look, we should have the next brief, or did they go, look, Rosie's done this?
No, there's quite a time, and
there
was quite a time difference between it.
Okay.
I think, and that this was a brief as opposed to a.
Gotcha.
I've stolen it off somebody, and it was the first time I think we were going to do a European poster campaign,
Right.
And it was just going back to the original Shrink to Fit jeans, but this was a controversial campaign at the time because. I was senior, but, it's always tricky when you've been at an agency from the get-go of your career to kind of establish yourself as a sort of bona fide art director, you're always slightly feeling that you're having to, shoulder your way in a bit. Yeah. And I'd chosen Nadav as the photographer, and John Hegarty totally disagreed with me.
Right.
He felt he was completely the wrong photographer for it. And it was a big, important campaign. And sort of John called me into his office and basically said, Rosie, this is wrong. I'd like you to choose somebody else.
Right.
And I was like, oh, okay. And I thought, I went out and I went, no, I'm going to go back. I think Nadav's the right person. I'm going to fight for this. So I disagreed with John. You will remember John is fantastic. He's got these very bright blue eyes that can turn into ice laser, and he said,
scary.
Well, let me say, Rosie, that if I'm not happy with the shots, I will be more than unhappy. Do you know what I'm saying? And I said, I think you're saying you're going to fire me if you don't like me. And he kind of just nodded a bit. And it was all over Christmas. And I got young kids and it was so funny. John's a brilliant businessman. And I learned so much from that because my God, did I fuss over every single element of it. Because, and the lesson I've learned from that was, to put that amount of care and love. If you're working a project that you're passionate about, pretend that your job is on the line for it because it will just make you go.
Did you put some of that pressure on Nadav as well?
He knew about it. I think he did know about it, and he was wonderful. I don't think he liked the fact that I'd done that particularly, but on the other hand,
because it put more pressure on him.
Well, probably because it put more. And what a wonderful job he did. And again, the things you won't know, which I look at these. And
could you describe them? Because that might be helpful for
So there's the campaign of 3. There is a man in a bath with a giant. He's a tiny little man. And he's got a needle, and he's trying to protect himself from a huge spider. There's a man hiding from a large sort of mastiff dog behind the chair leg, and there's a man on the beach with a big sandy foot about to squish him. But again, this was time before retouching was how it was. So what we had to do was, because we actually shot this on film in studio, and then we were going to literally cut and stick the thing in, and you blend it, you do it by hand. But the problem is the grain on the photograph of something like a spider in the bath compared to a man is completely different. So we had to get a car studio and work out the distance that the man would be to photograph him, so that the grain, when we retouched him in, would be the same as the grain of the bigger things.
And then you're mathematically matching the angle of the shot
yes,
as well, because you've obviously have to change the lens.
Yes. And actually it's a different location and everything's different. And I can still, if I'm perfectly honest, I can still, on the man lying down, see that the grain isn't quite right.
Incidentally, that process that you were talking about there is the same for when you're doing augmented reality, which is where you're taking a kind of a real world feed and augmenting over something that is not there but needs to look like it is. So you're mimicking that
process.
Yeah. So let's say you're doing it on a massive billboard like in Times Square or Piccadilly Circus. When you're shooting in a studio for the thing that you want to augment, it's in a much smaller space, and obviously the lens is different. But the process of that, the trigonometry of that, is exactly the same as what you're talking about here. Over here, you're doing it by hand and with the grain and the angle and the distance. And there you're doing it with pixels, so same process.
Did you, because you did it with Will Audrey, didn't you? And did you and Will and Nadav watch what's the film, The Incredible Shrinking Man, over and over again, or did you think about how they did it, or what would be a believable scene, or did you have other kind of scenes? Or
I love old movies. So, The Man in the White Suit, The Incredible, Invisible Man.
Yeah.
There's a million ads out there.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think in The Shrinking Man, I think I cobbled together the spider. I think that's the famous scene from the movie. And then it was just a question of what else is a threat and what would you hide from?
The other thing I wanted to ask you about it was Andy Bird, or Birdie, as we know him. The type is just brilliant as well. It's of that genre. Did you get him involved at an early stage, or was it?
Andy and I struggled over this a bit because Andy was doing lots of very groovy things, and I kept saying to him, it just needs to shrink because it's so obvious, the type. But you know, and he did it eventually after we'd done about a million other things. I persuaded him to do this, and it was just the right thing to do. But I think he felt at first it was just too obvious. You know, so you try and do other things, don't you? And you're like, yeah, but you know, it's advertising, and obvious is good. Really.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, they just look great. I mean, they just look like they were meant to be, like effortless. But it does sound like there was a lot behind it.
And also, I still look at things and go, yeah, I was a bit annoyed that the S of the jeans was getting into the highlight of the, you know.
Okay,
just,
but
you know,
$64,000 question. So you do it. Mm-hmm. You go and see John.
Yeah. So John didn't say anything to me for ages.
Oh, God.
So I knew I hadn't
So you
been
assumed
fired.
he
I
hated
hadn't
it?
been. No, I didn't. I thought they're pretty good. And I thought, like, okay, you know, I wasn't fired. And then it won a lot of awards. The campaign won a lot of awards. And at the award ceremony, he came up and said, "Well done." But
Did he get up on stage with you?
I think he was actually giving the awards out. Anyway, you know, but a lot of lessons learned in that process. And the great thing was, at the end of the day, going against John made me earn my stripes and made me sort of grow up in the company. So it worked on so many levels.
But I think it's clearly such a brilliant idea. It's brilliantly simple. I suppose he was just kind of just wanting it to be as brilliantly executed as ever.
He was.
You know, and I think...
Maybe I was being complacent. Who knows?
But they are
Maybe it was a test.
outstanding.
Maybe it was. I mean, honestly, I literally try and apply that thinking to myself when I feel I'm being a bit lazy. Or,
Yeah.
You know.
So we're going to move on from Levi's, and we're going to move to another absolutely epic campaign, Lynx, the Lynx effect, which had some Rosie effect on it. I mean, it's hard to sort of talk about this without just getting overly flowery and sort of indulgent, but it must have been about a 10-year period where everything on Lynx was just amazing. And it got better and better and better. I remember being there, and Paul Silburn, bless his cotton socks, wrote the original line.
Yeah.
And everyone was going, oh yeah, that's quite interesting. And I remember actually saying to John Hegarty, it was a bit like Heineken, isn't it? It's like a before and after thing. And he said, and whatever was wrong with Heineken. And then I just literally got back in my box and crawled back to my office and then started writing Lynx ads. Yeah. But it was like, I mean, I've just written a little list here. This isn't anything in particular, but the film you wrote was Sean, the Ben Affleck Click Spot, Alex and Adrian's Millions film, Saumi and Chappie's Animal Instinct, Nick Gill's Undressed, an Angel's Augmented Reality campaign with young Dan over there, the Lynx campaign. I mean, it was just incredible. It must have been like.
I mean, it's still going as well, right? I mean, it
is. I mean, I'm very conscious that in the society today, you know, spraying yourself with fragrance and women running towards you is not PC.
and it doesn't happen.
And it doesn't happen. But I think
not to you.
No, not to me. You've got the wrong
but
stuff.
I think the point about it was that it was very much aimed at mums who bought the deodorant for their 13-year-old boys. So we always tried to walk a very careful line with sort of taste and fun and irony that, of course, you're not going to attract a million women. And we felt that the audience kind of understood that. And so it was clever because guys, young men aspired to it, and the hero was always an ordinary guy they could identify with. And women found it funny. And you know, just trying to get that right so that you're not being sexist was quite a tricky...
The tone of it was important. I remember every time showing work and people saying it's just gone too far one way. But if it's, like you say, warm and you know what you're doing, I think you know, I mean, it's... And
respectful to the women involved, that's quite...
I mean, I don't know whether you'd be able to get away with it now, though, because it's find your magic.
I think
it
is. I mean, I think what they've done with it, you know, it's a little bit like Paul's first, Paul and Tiger actually was who did the first one, which is it sets the ground rules. Yeah. And it says, this is what this campaign's about. This may not be the best one, but it tells you this is the beginning. You know, the same with Heineken actually. The first ad just sort of went, oh, okay, now I understand where we're going. They're in a difficult move on for Lynx because you couldn't carry on doing that today. I think the idea about everyone's got some magic inside them and that this might help you find it is a lovely thought. Yeah. And I think they've set out the ground rules. Yeah. And so the next problem for whichever person's working on is how do we bring the magic of that alive in an entertaining way? Not just, I think it can be a bit too worthy.
Yeah, I think it's it was a fine line, isn't it, to getting it
I think Levi's had the same problem, actually, you know. So I don't know what they've been doing.
And they also went unisex for a while as well, didn't they, as a kind of try and changed things. They went girl and boy versions of their products as well.
Yeah, I mean, it kept going and evolved. I mean, Nick Gill's
Getting dressed.
just so well put together, because that could in the wrong hands.
Absolutely.
Ringen just did a great job. We should get onto the billboards.
Right, billboards.
So
right.
the first campaign I want to talk to you about, I don't know if I'm going to get the name wrong, Rosie, but I've called it Masculine Feminine.
Yeah,
is that
that's
right?
good. Yeah.
So I remember, people would walk into your office with piles and piles. So it was a bit like Levi's, and you go, "Oh my God, Rosie's going through them now," and everyone would be nervous. I imagine this stood out because
I just love this. This campaign.
we should describe it again.
By Dave Monk and Matt Waller, and I just still love this as a concept. So what they did was they played with the idea that French words are masculine or feminine, and then they brought that to life. So we've got. Basically, it's sex pest machinery attacking guys. So it's a wheelbarrow that has leapt on top of a poor young man, and it just says La Brouette Feminine Wheelbarrow, the Lynx effect. And what's so funny is that it just manages to create real personality in a wheelbarrow, or there's a man in bed and there's a cement mixer winding in his sheet from him. And that's, I don't know, my French isn't very good, but that's a cement mixer feminine. Or again, a man having a bath and peeping in at the window is la chaise, feminine chair. And it's just, they're just so funny and, well, what a wonderful, fresh, original idea of bringing feminine to life,
It must have really stood out
Yeah.
in the... Did you show it to the client, and was there a kind of...
I remember the client
moment.
worried that it was a bit too intellectual
Yeah.
for the target audience.
Because it was quite early in the campaign, wasn't it?
But also, you just have to go, look, probably the guys that are going to be influenced by this are at school, and they might be studying French. And then, everything's kind of explained in that. And I think everybody really knows that French has masculine.
I mean, they're very well
so-
executed as well. Malcolm Benville, photographer's done a
beautifully
great...
done.
again, just very
Simple.
beautifully put
Do you remember
together.
where they went out on the streets? Were they on billboards? or-
They're all on billboards, yeah.
Billboards.
Yeah.
Because it's the kind of thing, I imagine, it is a bit left field, but once you're in on the gag, it's a bit like once you're in on the Lynx Effect gag, it's really rewarding, isn't it?
It is,
And you
yeah.
can just keep going and going
I
and
wish
going.
we could have had you can imagine trying to choose all the words, but it's like
I quite sadly this morning started thinking, I wonder if there was any other language that has masculine and feminine in it.
Italian.
Right, so
Here's the test.
Oh no!
so did when they showed
There in the end.
when they showed it, did they say, Rosie, this is like it's a French thing? And then did anyone go, well, what about Italian? Is it going to
Language of
confuse?
love.
It's the language of love.
Yeah. Okay. It's great. Okay.
Let's move it on to Lynx 24 Hours.
Okay, so another Matt and Dave, little geniuses that they are.
Yeah, they were smashing it this time, weren't they?
Yeah, and I mean, I think again, it's the 24 hours, and this was a new product development, so that the Lynx was lasting 24 hours, and they came up with this concept about you could go anywhere in the world as long as it took less than 24 hours,
Brilliant.
and you were still going to be smelling fresh and wonderful. So they've sort of done basically their tourist posters for Brazil, Australia, and Thailand, showing rather gorgeous women. Who are only 12 hours away or 21 hours away or 14 hours away. So I thought what I loved about this, again, an opportunity to do some really fun type.
Yeah.
And, that I think comes across as very playful. And it sort of gets the point home in a fun way.
It's virtually a product demo, isn't it? What I love about it, it's so... They didn't bother... No one went off and did something too left field. It's right there, isn't it? 24 hours. And again, did that... When you saw it... Had you seen a lot of other stuff?
Yeah,
Or was it actually quite a natural bosh? Here it is.
No, I think you always get a lot of stuff. I think they were gutted because they actually had to do comps rather than go.
I know, I was going to say. Yeah.
Damn.
Yeah, that Australian one is particularly...
When you come up with those ideas, you go, yes, we're going to go and shoot this. We're going to go and shoot this. We're off to Brazil, Australia, and Thailand.
No, you're not. That's the downside about doing a poster as opposed to a film, because if it was a film, you'd have to go there.
Yeah.
But well, you'd go to Cape Town, wouldn't you? But so
And
good.
was it... Was Birdie on the type then, or was that like Chapman or something like that?
I don't remember, if I'm perfectly honest. I'm sorry, it was a while ago.
Okay, we'll find out.
Find out and credit, because both Chapman and Birdie were brilliant.
Yeah.
Did it do well on the awards? This one? I don't remember.
I don't remember. I know it's in the book.
Yeah, it is. And
I think it might have won campaign. I think it won some campaign
in the
awards.
book as well. It's funny because I think there was so much good work on Lynx. It was everywhere. It was like TV, print, poster, even that radio I remember there's a Benny Hill theme tune, and at just the end it just said Links Effect. I think that was.
What were they like as a client to work with?
They were brilliant.
You were working with them, not through the account team by this point.
Yes, and I think it's testament that we had a really great relationship with them. And one of the things I feel that's happened over the years is there's no time to meet clients outside the meeting room when you're presenting something which is a high stress situation. So, for instance, on Getting Dressed, I had a really great relationship with Steve Miles, who was the client, great client. And there was the music was a very expensive choice. And I was having a conversation with him, and I remember because I was at home and he was travelling, and my phone signal was really bad, and the only place I could get phone signal was if I got a new puppy, if I stood on the crate for the puppies in the corner of the kitchen. So I was standing there going, oh my God, trying to persuade Steve that it was really well worth spending all that money on that incredible, and I never pronounce his name right, but the Ishi, somewhere over the rainbow, what a wonderful world all mashed up together. And because of our relationship, Steve trusted me enough and went with it. And honestly, it really, really makes the piece. And I think that's true of a lot of the other work, that there was an inherent trust, that they knew I wanted to do the best I could for the brand, and they knew me and trusted me. And, so
you can see.
And I don't think we've given enough credit to some of the clients that we've talked about over the last 6-7 episodes now, is that we've talked a lot about the creative teams and the directors and ECDs and even the creative chairman and the global CCOs, but it's really important to have a client who is open to new ideas and to a different way of saying what their product does. And there's Links in particular, who are they're a challenger. We talked about Virgin recently as well, kind of disruptor brand. That you get these client teams that just go, yes, I'm embracing this. I want to hear more, and I'm prepared to stick my neck on the line for you to do that as well.
Yeah. Also, the other thing that I think, looking at the work that you've chosen, is they haven't gone, well, we need a much bigger can, and we need all the facts underneath about what it does, and there is this instinct at the moment to fiddle.
Yeah.
And I also sort of worry, because I feel that quite often clients move so quickly that actually their interests are around their career, and of course they want to do well, but actually sometimes doing something that's not going to make enough noise and not draw attention to you is a better career path for them than taking a really brave decision and sticking their neck out. And I think that's what I feel I'm seeing, that people are tending to, of course there's some fantastic clients, there's still great work out there, but just that tendency to go, well, we need the whole kitchen sink in this, please, because I want to make sure that all my points are ticked off.
Yeah, I mean, that's I've got the brand, the Bible in front of me, and it says I have to say this, I have to say that, I have to say this, and any piece of communication I stick out there has to have all of this on there. And I'm going to do what it says in the book so I can get the senior job title. And this is just...
Yeah.
But I think also there's less campaigns that have that wonderful, longevity, or people will invest and stay with it. Like if you think about it now, like Links was incredible. I mean, we're talking about The Economist. We have talked about The Economist. We're going to talk about it more. There's one or two brands who invest in that campaign and they just keep going, whereas others, like you say, maybe a client is changing quickly, they need to move things on, which you completely understand.
Totally.
But also you kind of go, if you've got something like Marmite and you go, this thing can just do anything, we can make it work in this space and that space, and it's someone who's just decided to invest and stay with it. And I think you will always benefit if your original campaign is hardwired to your brand and your vision, you're going to be okay.
But also you might go much further because you do something I mean, I don't know, I'm just thinking, they just popped into my mind. I thought that was so brilliant. The McDonald's directional posters, do you remember those?
Yeah.
From a couple of years ago, which was just literally taking the golden arches and taking one way that it bent to say turn right, turn left, turn round. I just thought they were superb.
So that won Grand Prix at Cannes, and last year I was on the outdoor jury with Carlos as the creative behind it, and he's the CCO at Cosette now in Canada, and that was his campaign. So
brilliant.
I was talking to him about it about a week ago.
That's brilliant.
Because we're going to get him on.
Good. Well,
I love
Rosie
that
Arnold
campaign.
was saying how brilliant it was.
He'll hear it on this for sure.
But I think we've talked endlessly about billboards because we love it, and McDonald's was to someone we said, we got to get McDonald's client on, and probably a Burger King client on, and talk about, because those guys every year they
Flame
smash
Grilled was an incredible
Yeah.
campaign, you know,
And I think-
KFC, you
Yeah.
know, I mean,
They've been
now I had a
amazing.
conversation with John Hegarty about those nugget ones,
Yeah.
Right.
because I think they're brilliant. You know, the ones which are like it's a Formula One car,
Yeah.
and the flames
Yeah.
coming out the back are a nugget,
Love those.
and then there's like, I particularly like the kind of Go-Go Power Rangers
the
one, which
women-
looks like an explosion.
And there's the air guitar. There's the guitarist
They're just
one.
they're
But
just
they're very good.
they're just showing the product, aren't they?
They're brilliant. John Hegarty, I'm sorry, John, if you're listening to this. He's always got to think about he hates people playing with food, so he doesn't like them. So I should be
Right.
saying this. Sorry, John. But I think they're brilliant because I think the food looks delicious.
Yeah, I think it looks delicious.
I think it looks delicious.
So
So I think it's
to-
one of the exceptions that proves the rule in that.
We're on a bit of a theme because the illustrator was also on the jury last summer as well. Surachai, his name is from Thailand. He's incredible,
Yeah.
incredible illustrator. He did some fantastic stuff for Chupa Chups last year as well. The
But
big round head people.
Oh yes,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
But I think the craft, you know,
Craft,
some
yes.
people in the craft is just off the scale.
Yeah.
Okay,
Right.
we should talk about one more.
One more.
One more
link.
links. Yeah.
And I've noticed, I'm going to describe this. This is a grubby white lorry or truck with some names have been written on the side, and they're all women's names. And one of them I can see says Rosie.
I then put my proper phone.
I hope that's not 07800 564 360. So they're written all over it, and it just says the links effect. So again, just wonderfully simple. Pucker piece of outdoor. Was this a big thing? Was it a difficult thing to sell? Was it a proactive idea?
It was a proactive
Yeah.
idea from Nick and Kev, taking kidney.
Are they still?
They're still there.
Hello,
They're still
chaps.
there. They won a blooming, Cannes Grand Prix
Really?
last year. They're knocking it out the park.
Yeah, I remember as they joined, me and Adam were leaving, and I was thinking, I wonder
Wow.
wonder where all go. And
No,
then
they're brilliant. So this was proactive, and they just came in and popped it on my desk and said, "We've had a little idea," and it's just so much fun. But and what I love about this, it's using a kind of the side of the delivery van for links as a billboard. So it's a moving billboard that you'd see and smile about, and just a very clever piece of thinking, beautifully done.
I mean, another thing about investing in a campaign for many years is once an opportunity comes up for a topical ad, if you have a robust enough campaign that's very clear in its identity, you can just do a topical ad as
Yeah.
and when. And
Yeah.
as well as, we haven't even talked about topical ads for links, but there were many.
Yeah.
And you go, it's because everyone knows the deal and what you stand for, and it became, it just feeds itself somehow, doesn't it? I mean, obviously, like we've said many times, it wouldn't run now, but at its time, it was
Bill Clinton one. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
I don't remember this one.
It was a dustbin outside the White House with a can of links in it. That's all it was.
We're still laughing.
That's really good.
Yeah.
Was this one of the first times that it was the kind of more stunt-based outdoor for links?
No, I think we've been doing quite a lot of those. I mean, I remember Matt Camsey and I did one, which was we redid the CERN Giant and put a girl running to him with the links effect. And we'd persuaded a farmer that we were going to draw the CERN Giant with the girl running to him with the links effect written underneath. And he got overexcited and told Farming News or something, I don't know what it was. And then the Unilever top bods went, "You can't do that." It was all hilarious because my poor client, we were just going to get it away. It was going to be like the first time anybody'd done like a huge field. Can you imagine how exciting it was?
Yeah.
And then they said we had to put him in underpants. And we were like, but the CERN Giant is out there for the world to see with no underpants on. So in the end, we had to run him with a Y-front on, which was really annoying. But anyway, we did actually
That
manage
went
to
right
do it.
to the top of Unilever marketing.
Yeah, it did.
I'd love to be in that meeting.
Well, it's very difficult because I mean nowadays it's I'm quivering slightly talking about it because
No, you can't.
It's what's tricky is I think you'd say there was very bad behaviour and then we were sort of joining in by laughing at it, and I kind of accept that, but I think treading the right line was the thing that we always tried to do. That's what I would say in my defence, Your Honour.
No, I think it was of the time. It was of the time.
It was.
So we should move on to one more piece at BBH, the Robinsons work, which has the line "Just add Robinsons," and I think this is one of the finest things. It's just so simple. Again, sorry to be a pain, but could you just describe it to us?
So this is, as you know, when you pour juice into water, it dilutes and becomes orange juice or blackberry juice, something. So this is the idea that we've just see the juice pouring in, and it forms images. So a girl on a swing, or a dog chasing a ball, or somebody playing tennis for the Wimbledon one. And this was interesting because when we pitched for Robinson's Juice, it's one of those things that you think, what can we do? And then I realised that actually juice is magic, because what it does is it turns water into something delicious.
Right.
And just by the very fact that normally you pour the juice in and then you pour the water on top, which is, it doesn't have the magic. So for the pitch, I remember I got a jug of water, and then I took the juice and I poured the juice in.
Theatrical pitch. It was great. And involved no singing or dancing, so it's even
better. And then it was how you bring it to life. And we did a TV ad.
I remember the TV ad very well.
But you know what? Again, we really struggled technically with that. Because, when I look at how...
It was before its time.
Years before its time.
Yeah.
And this, again, we really struggled to make this look like juice, because we used actually inks.
I was going to ask you how you brought it.
Yeah, so... and then I was very keen that it really did, again, just, felt like a natural dog or a natural girl on a swing or something. It was quite hard, because you wanted to... And we had to play around a lot with how we did this... not in camera, so we actually sort of retouched it afterwards. But just getting that right level of whether they look like legs was quite a lot of work, but simple.
How did you? So did you shoot? What were you shooting then? Sort of different.
We shot lots of inks going into water,
right,
and then we took them away, and then we sort of pasted them together. So technology was such that we could do that, which we might not have been able to do, but then.
But it wasn't complete CGI, so it's not.
No.
It was using elements, and
It was using elements, and it was literally painstakingly going through all the shots of the ink dropping into the water and then moving.
But you know what? I mean, from where I'm sitting, there's a sort of charm to it, because I love the fact that it was just on the edge of, you knew what it was, but you didn't know too much what it was. Otherwise, it's going to be. I think a lot of the kind of posty stuff now, you'd just feel like.
But it's the same as anything.
Cold and
If you watch a film that was made, I watched Will Smith, Enemy of the State, again recently, and I remember when it was first out, you're thinking about the motion graphics, and then you go, wow, like kind of zooming in from space.
Yeah.
And you look back at it now, and it's 18, 19 years old or something, and you go, well, it's incredibly poor, because the CGI is so much better now, and the skills that the motion graphic designers have got, and the speed of the computers has quadrupled since then. So you go, wow, it's that's for doing it at that time.
Yeah.
You just have to go with it, don't you?
Yeah.
As well, though, you just have to.
Yeah.
I remember the campaign. I thought the animation was brilliant at the time.
I've got one overall question about your career at BBH. So nothing major, but it's just an observation. Sort of going through it all the last few days and thinking. So it's Rosie and Charles doing the Haters campaign, and it's you and Will doing the Shrinking Man. And I started thinking, and as you did the film with Sean, he did this with Matt Kemsley. I'm thinking, right. So, did you purposely not team up with someone, or because you arrived at BBH on your own, were you very happy to go, I'm going to work with him on that and her on this? And
no, I was always hoping to find Mr. or Mrs. Right.
Right.
So, and I think it came from when I was first in the business, I was on my own, because nobody in art school particularly wanted to do advertising. So I literally kiboshed quite a few people in to sort of coming with me, so they were a body in the room.
Yeah.
And then I worked with this girl called Alexis, who I'm still great friends with, who then moved to America. And she actually did go into advertising, ironically. So then I was John very sweetly, because, people didn't want solos, they wanted teams. So then we got Kiki, and I worked with her for a bit, but she's really an art director.
Yes.
So we split up, and then I worked with a guy called Derek Payne, who John put me together with.
I didn't get these two.
And then after Derek, it was Charles. And then Charles moved on. I think it was after I'd had my sons. I think, that was a long, complicated story. And then I worked with Will, which was wonderful. And I loved Will. And I think Will was the sort of, that I adored working with him. And then I think then they had a whole kind of reorganising, and now you're a creative director. And at that point, you don't want a team of creative directors because it's too expensive, and also it's quite hard for teams coming in because you quite often get different opinions. So I think they broke us up at that point.
Because I remember coming in and, it was a team culture. Like, you've got to be in a team, and it was it's like an American thing to go, there was like 3 people on the credit list and going, how's that? And then they go, oh, that's Rosie, she's doing this and that. And I was thinking, how's that possible? It just wasn't in my mind. Now looking back, thinking, it probably did you really well because you could just bob in and bob out. And when Sean Preston came as well, and Sean was really chilled with it because he's like very American, and it was like a dream thing. And I was like, and then I remember at the time Adam and I worked a bit with Sorby and Chappie on something, and but I think we were quite rigid in some ways in our team thinking, whereas you must have felt much more liberated as you went on, thinking, well, I can work with X and Y, it's clearly working. Cool.
How long were you at BBH?
33 years.
Wow.
I started when I was 4 cleaning chimneys. Then.
You said that before.
And so how was it leaving?
It
was a completely different company.
Well, my husband died.
Yeah.
I had a year off from BBH, sort of caring for him. And then when I went back, because they were brilliant, absolutely brilliant, it felt my life had changed completely, and it felt wrong to just, it felt like I was trying to pretend that
it's all back to normal.
It's all back to normal.
Yeah.
And also, the other thing that is a sort of lesson to us all is you can think there you are and you're a fundamental part of the culture and you're really important to it, but it's a business. And, for all of us who spend too long at work and work too hard and care about it so much, it is a business. And the water closes over you the minute you've gone, because of course it has to. Everything can't fall apart if one individual can't make it anymore. So that was also quite an interesting thing, and I just thought, you know what? I need a bit of fresh life. I need to go and do something different. I need to acknowledge that I'm not the same person anymore.
That the world is different, yeah.
And I did feel guilty because I thought, I probably should take a CCO role because there's not many women out there, and I've tried to do a lot about encouraging more women into the industry and sort of be a leading female figure, but I just didn't want to. And I also thought I needed to be kind to myself after a particularly grueling few years. And going as head of art to AMV felt like, that's a gorgeous job. Lovely people.
What attracted you to AMV? What was the... Well, having the experience you've got and been at BBH, you could have gone to any agency, really.
Well, several things. There was Alex and Adrian, who I'd loved and worked a lot with at BBH, who were the ECDs. So for me, going somewhere where I was not going to be the ECD, it was important that I had a good relationship with the people who were going to be my bosses, effectively. Also, AMV, they were just knocking it out of the park creatively. I still think if you look at their work, they are still the most extraordinarily talented agency. And that year, I was judging British television, and every single thing, so there was a fantastic Curry's Christmas ads with Jeff Goldblum that was superb.
Yeah.
There was Tenor Men. Have you seen that ad? It was just completely spectacular. There was Smart Energy, the darts player. Yeah. There was Guinness. There was Charity. It was just every single thing coming out of that place was incredible. And, it was one of the few places I could look at and go, well, I think the work, is amazing. And I think actually BBH had been going through a little dip, although they're back now. I still feel I'm a BBH girl.
Yeah.
So I went there because, and also it was a lovely job to be head of art and lovely, lovely people. So I was lucky.
And you got involved in the Maltesers Billboard, which is wonderful. Was that... how did that come about? That was with a... So
that was a junior team, Chaz and Lucy.
Yes.
Who were great. And it was a sort of... a proactive from the client was very keen to build on the success of their... their disability campaign.
Yes.
And we were just looking at different ways that we could bring that to life. So it was a kind of tactical brief for people to come up with different ideas. And the girls came up with that, and I loved it because it was going around International Blind Day, whatever it's called.
Yes.
And the fact that we could make a billboard from Maltesers, we moulded actual size Maltesers to read as Braille.
Yes.
was, felt like a
I mean,
really lovely-
I love that, but then I love the fact that it was a joke. Because, what was it? I once got on a
fire engine.
fire once thinking it was a bus.
Yeah.
So that's for me, because initially I remember seeing it thinking, oh yeah, that's quite cool, because Braille and the
Maltesers.
the
Yeah.
Maltesers go, and you could have stopped there, couldn't it? It could have been like, let's be more aware, blah, blah, blah. But the joke for me then maybe went, that's really good. So it's got a sense of humour and it's just warmth. And I loved it. I really.
And it was at a bus
great.
stop. And for those of you who don't know, we had a voice activated thing so that if you couldn't
Okay.
read the Braille,
Right.
you'd hear the joke. So
Yeah.
maybe that's how you
Yeah.
heard the joke. But also it was at bus stations as
Yeah.
well, so bus stops, so that the
It was
joke was
contextually
relevant.
relevant,
Yeah. So,
Nice. What were the other lines that got away on that one?
oh God, I can't remember. Because I think we only managed to do one because it was quite expensive to do the moulded.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
one ad. I think it went in several places, but
You probably want shorter headlines on that one, didn't you?
we actually had one of the posters next to that cafe. That's the cafe in the dark.
Oh,
you
yes.
know
Oh, yeah,
where the waiters and waitresses are behind. So I quite like that too.
That's quite great.
French
Good.
name. What's it called? Nice.
It's not the wheelbarrow, that's for sure.
As we're coming towards the end now, so we always ask the same kind of three things at the end. First thing, do you have anything in your bottom drawer that you still wish you'd got away on a
Yes,
billboard?
I do.
All right.
You want me to draw it for you?
I'm
don't
going
you?
to draw it. Oh, right.
Right. So
Live
this
on air.
was so long ago. It was when Comic Relief first came out.
Yeah.
Red Nose Day. God, I might have to have several attempts here.
Hugh's going to have to give us a commentary.
Okay.
over,
This
of
looks
what
like a portrait.
Portrait
Listen,
could be.
We're pretty much playing Pictionary right now. That's
Okay.
It's an ad shell. At the top is it looks like a nose to me.
It's a nose.
Good. And the bottom half is a round thing. Nose jobs. Oh, I think I know this is going to... Oh, yeah.
So that is.
That's good.
And that said before.
Okay, so before and after ad. This is, I really like this, so I'm just reaching out. I love it. So before, it's just someone with a normal nose, and after...
Well, it's a big horrible nose.
big
actually.
horrible nose. Well, because I've got an horrible nose. I'm trying to say, no, they're fine.
Sorry for people with large noses. They're
This
fine.
for me. So the first picture at the top has before with someone with a very big nose, slightly ugly nose, and underneath it, it's covered in with a red nose.
Exactly.
And it says after. It says new nose jobs, 50p.
It would be
Brilliant.
£1 now, won't they?
Yeah, probably £1. Yeah.
But it was 50p at the time. That's
And
right.
Yeah.
Rosie, will you be offering that for free to Res Nose
Yes,
Day?
yes, they
Yeah.
can have that.
There you
Okay.
go.
We'll have to
That's
draw it a bit better than that.
We
but hey.
will
We'll post
take a
that.
photo of that and put that on there.
We've
and
never
we'll-
had that so far, have we?
No, no
A
one-
live billboard
Do you
on
know
there.
what? We're going to do
I'll
that.
have to
Rosie,
draw that better.
ahead of the curve as usual.
That's going to be the new challenge for everyone who comes in on the podcast.
Can you see what it is,
Yeah.
mate? Yeah. Right. So thanks. And then also, do you have two other things? A favourite billboard of all time? It doesn't have to be one of your own. Could be any.
No,
or do you?
there's somebody else. I was thinking about this. I absolutely loved. Paul Silburn, Tiger Savage did a campaign for Nike, and there were several in that. But I really loved Advantage Sampras,
Yeah.
which is Pete Sampras, and it's a black and white shot of him throwing a tennis ball in the air, but it's not a tennis ball; it's a hand grenade. And I just still look at that and go, "Oh, it's lovely."
Yeah,
It is
fantastic
lovely.
poster.
Absolute.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
I remember though, because I worked with Lavisa, and she said a bit like you talking about looking at some of your old posters and still think, oh, the grade on the shrinking man. So Lou said when he did it, and the word Advantage Sampras, they were
I don't think they didn't need Advantage Sampras.
exactly.
That's what I was going to
And
say.
so
My
Paul
one criticism.
always said that, and I think, you kind of go, I get it because it's all there. But
No,
It's
that's the one
interesting,
thing I know
yeah.
it's terrible because they did a U-turn one, which I thought was
Oh, it's
great.
good, yeah.
Which was I don't think it had anything on it. It was just the no U-turns with a whole load of runners on the marathon, which was good.
We should ask Tiger Savage what her
Yeah.
point of view is.
Yeah, I think that's got to be a benchmark of a great poster. Does it work without the headline? That's got to be
Yeah.
one of the things as a rule. Can you take the headline off and it still works?
Yeah.
And you go, if
So I
it's
love
yes,
that poster, but just
Okay.
And then any tips for kind of, we're trying to understand a bit more about our demographics, but there are definitely people giving us feedback online. This is fantastic. It helped me get my first job. We've got someone who was using some of our information as part of their pitch for a new job at an agency. So we know people are listening and kind of picking up on some of the tips that we're talking about. Have you got any tips for creatives who want to get into the industry, thinking about ads, thinking about outdoor as a medium?
I think posters. I always look for poster campaigns in students' books. because it says that you really get what advertising's about, because it's got to be visually powerful. I mean, even The Economist, which I love, managed to be visually powerful, the red and the white. And it's got to be simple. So posters are the crystallization of your idea. So I would actually start by going, you need a portfolio which has got several poster campaigns in it, because I'm flicking through it. They're powerful. I realise that you understand what advertising's about if you can do a poster. I think there's a kind of a rule of thumb, but not more than 7 words. Occasionally you might have a few more because people need to read them. But I think just think visually powerful images and, succinct headlines that sum up that thought. But I think, just don't think they're old-fashioned media, because actually, all of these posters you could shrink and put online.
Yeah.
Because you've just got to get that across very, very simply and very quickly. Don't discount Instagram, and a lot of clients want that as a feed, because actually Instagram is basically just a square poster.
Yeah.
So think posters when you're thinking Instagram.
And I think that's kind of the same...
Or tweets even, if you think about it.
Yeah.
Everything is condensed.
And all you're trying to do in an ad that's sitting in the social media space is trying to get people to stop swiping. They're going through their timeline and they're going to see an ad. And what we're trying to do on a poster site is get people to stop walking or just glance for an extra second so they can pick up the brand information. But I think that's a good tip. In the way that people are, on Instagram specifically, if you've got full motion, you've got 10 seconds of content to try and grab someone's attention. So
at the same time as you walk past a poster.
Exactly. That's a great tip. Really good.
Thanks so much for coming in. It's been an absolute pleasure for us as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Bye.
Hey, John just told us that was a really clean episode. We didn't swear once. Fuck that.
You're fucking kidding me. Sorry, John. Well, I think...
that's it. We have to put the explicit thing on now. We said fuck.
Do you have to put some on?
Yeah, you have to tell it you swore. Yeah.
Can I say a few more firsts? I'm holding a piece of paper. We've had a live billboard drawn on air.
That's good, isn't it?
That's good.
That's the benchmark. So
from Rosie Arnold's bottom drawer, we're going to put that on the website. That's brilliant.
So to those people you've booked coming in soon, you have to bring your billboard ideas and sketch them out, and we're going to have a game of Pictionary billboard, behind the billboard Pictionary.
It's going to be great.
I wonder if that will attract people or deter them from coming on.
Maybe just me and you drawing pictures and describing them.
Rosie was fantastic, wasn't she?
Yeah,
really
she
good.
was. And you think I was more measured today?
You were definitely more measured.
I've been doing therapy classes for measurement.
And how do you measure up?
Not bad, yeah. I think the breathing's more under control.
It is.
I think I was sitting further back in my seat. John at one point just said, "You're just too far back."
Did he move you forward?
Yeah.
He hasn't stopped me tutting, has he?
No, it was good. I think she was, she's so open, she's so lovely, she's so brilliant. I mean, God, everything she's done is amazing. And she's so sort of humble and just easy to chat to about it all. It was really quite something.
I have to say, the tips that we got at the end there from Rosie were fantastic. So if you're listening to Bias, who messaged us on Instagram saying that he's loving the podcast and it's helping him secure his first job in advertising, there's some classic tips on there for you for getting into advertising through the billboard industry.
And that means that we've helped someone potentially get a job, which means we may be doing some good.
We're making a difference.
As opposed to just two blokes randomly shouting at each other with John.
We're helping the medium grow creatively.
Yeah, brilliant. I've just so enjoyed today.
That's good.
Very good. Thank you. Oh, can I say one other thing? Sorry, this is a little bit deep, this.
Oh, gosh.
I was at a funeral yesterday for my cousin.
Yes.
So my cousin was a huge radio fan, audio fan. So I don't know, I just wondered if I could dedicate my bit of the show to Anthony Todd, who passed away but was still in my heart today.
I think we can dedicate the whole show to him.
Oh, Dan, what, your bit and John's bit?
Yeah.
Anthony,
you can have the whole lot.
You'll be listening up there. Thanks, mate, for the inspiration.